Hi Tanglers, I'm Annie and welcome back to my studio here in Estes Park, Colorado. I've been home from Austria for a couple of weeks now, but hit the ground running because we had an fine arts and crafts show to prepare for that we participated in as Botangle. So I am really excited that that's done and that I can get back to showing you some tangles. Here in Colorado, it's been very cool. Yesterday was our first official day of autumn all over, right? But it really felt like it here. So I don't know how it is in your neck of the woods, but I'm inspired by the change in the weather. I like the cool temperatures and the low-hanging clouds and the misty rain, and it's looking a lot like Scotland here these days. I thought today would be really a good start to the season to show you a leaf pattern. I love Phicops. Phicops is a pattern by Brad Harms, and I am going to show you, however, a pattern that is a leaf shape using that Phicops principle. And I do believe somebody out there, I think it's Tiffany Loverling, did a YouTube on this. But I have done a class on this a couple of times using the colored backgrounds. And today I'm going to just show you actually how to do the leaf shape in a kind of 3Z tile for time's sake. And I'll show you some inspirations as well. So let's get started on Leafy Phicops. So today I'm going to be using a 3Z tile from Zen-Tangle that I have used Lindy's die shakers, magical shakers on to color my background. I'll be using an 01 Micron pen from Sakura in black. And for my shading, I will also need actually a graphite pencil. That's just to provide our string. And then for my shading, I'm going to be using an array of colored pencils that I just grabbed from my colored pencil box to match tone and tone the surface of this colored background. And I'll show you how we do that when we get that far. To begin, I'm just going to mark the center, approximately eyeball it with my pencil, maybe up here a little bit more. And then I'm going to try to fill out this corner with a leaf shape as much as I can. I'm going to turn the tile, and I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm leaving the end open here because we're going to join this with our stem. Turning my tile. And then you can get your eraser out and clean that up a little bit. Got my kneaded eraser here. You can even dab the lines if you like so that they don't interfere with your design. I might make this corner here a little bit bigger. This lobe. Okay, so that is our string basically. And within that string, we're going to be doing our step out of the Phicops. Before we start though, I'd like to show you, here is let me back this off. This is a really old Tangle tag that I did with Phicops, and this is what it looks like. It's more of a shell type of a form, and this is an example on the back of how it can look. This is the step out for the leaf. So here we've just done this part, and now we're going to go on and do these next steps. So now I've got my 01 pen, and I am not going to outline this in black. Rather, I'm going to start about 3/4 of the way up, and I'm going to make a line down the center. I'm actually going to go just to one side there. And then we're going to make our midrib. Well, that's our midrib. We're going to make our veins. And I'm going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 veins. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm going to try to mirror that. And there we have the veins and the midrib of our leaf. And now we're going to take our pen and go from the 3/4 of a way in to the end of the next line. And we're going to do that on the other side. And for the bottom, we're going to use that as a guide, but we are going to also go 3/4 of the way in. And now for the tip, I'm just going to do kind of a spade top. And now comes the fun part, the Phicops part. Let me just get this line cleaned up. We're going to just make little hoods, but we're not going to go all the way to the end here. We're only going to go about 3/4 of the way down like that. Same with this. So that's going to give us this feeling that there's a dimension there, and we can color those in dark. We can put line work there. We'll decide that afterwards. Okay, so now I'm going to do the same thing on here. Go about 3/4 of the way up. Notice that I'm bowing my line ever so slightly, because if you do that, it's going to make your leaf look like it's furling up a little bit, not so flat. And then we're going to go in here. You can either start at the top. I kind of like to start at the bottom and then go up, because then I can look where I'm going. Leaf number 2, 3/4 of the way up. There's some fun things you can do with the tops of these leaves. You can either keep them like that, or you can also do like a little curly Q at the end, which is kind of fun. So there we have the basic. Oh, nope, I forgot my little hoods. This is what gives this wonderful dimension. And now I'm going to take my eraser and clean up the little graphite that's left. And now we can do some of that expressive line or line weighting, and there's all kinds of different ways you can do that, but I kind of like to give this midrib some emphasis by just weighting where the two veins connect. And then there's 2 ways you can deal with these lobes and their shading. You can either color them in completely like this, right? Or you can, let me see if I have an example. Yes, I do. So on this example, all I did was use some hatch lines so that it wasn't quite so dark. So you can see the difference here between the hatching, the dark fill, right? So depending on the look you're going for, if you want that very bold look like this, or if you want it to be more subtle, then you would use the hatch marks. Since I've been using the fill on these, I'm going to go ahead on this one and just use those hash lines. Basically, I'm just auraing that hood all the way from the outside into the center. So there we have the basis of our leaf, and now we just need to shade. But let's talk about what we can do here. We could just shade right now. And then we have something that looks more like this, okay? This is another piece I did, just adding the leaves all around and then staggering them to make kind of a blossom. But if you just shade, it'll look like this. I didn't have a chance to finish my color layering on this. And if you just shade, it'll look something more like this. Here I've got a glaze of color on top and a background in there. But we're going to go for this look here. So I'm going to show you to add a tangle in here. And I love Hypnotic. I think it's a really perfect texture tangle for this, which is just basically a spiral until you hit the end. You can't go any further. And then you're going to just aura that spiral on either side. And you can switch up where you start your spiral, or you can keep them all the same. Just sort of making a meta pattern to make that look like an owl. This pattern reminds me of if you were to throw a pebble into a brook or a stream, it would make these ripples, and it is a bit mesmerizing. One more here. So I want to add a little bit more definition where these veins are, so that we can very clearly see them still. They're not getting lost in the line work. So I'm going to go restate those. And there is our first completed Phicops leaf. Of course, you can put any tangle in here that you want, or no tangle at all. This is an example of my class where we just chose a bunch of different tangles and had fun playing around with those patterns. And here's betweed, crescent moon, shaddock, banana leaf, and zeppel. I like how I offset this. I actually, on this one, I went all the way to the top rather than stopping here. So let's do that on this one as an example. Let's go all the way up here. And that way I can do my little hypnotic offset. So maybe one down here and one offset to the top. Take your time and remember to have a light touch on your pen so that your ink flows. This one I'm using here is a little bit worn, but by lifting my pressure, I can get that ink to flow better. Now we're going to go and shade. What I'm going to do is, taking a look at this, this is a little bit lighter yellow, so I'm going to go with a little bit darker yellow to shade under these lines, under these veins. And in the hood, that would be a little bit darker as well. And also down either side of the midrib, just like we do with our other leaves that we shade. See how that's popping now? You always want to go with the color 1 or 2 shades darker than what you have. This one I'm going to give this a little dimension here. And then as you can see, this is a little bit darker down here, so I'm going to go in my array of pencils. I'm going to go for this one. It's a little bit darker, and that will give it even more depth. And then I'm going to stop there. Then I'm going to do the same thing over here, but since this is already darker, I'm going to start with this. I think I'm going to go with this color. Yeah, that's working for me. Of course, one thing I haven't said yet, which I always say, is make sure your pencil is very sharp. This could be sharper, actually. Okay, and then I am going to go a little bit darker on here with like almost a red. This is a poppy red, I think. What's this called? Deep red. Just a little bit. The more you layer, the more interesting it's going to be. And then let's talk about burnishing. Burnishing is when we blend, right? We don't really want to blend with our tortillon because this is colored pencil and it won't really spread. But you can take a lighter color of whatever you're using. This is the lightest color, and go back over the top, and that's going to blend all of the colors together. See how that is taking the graininess away? Very pretty. You can do that on here too, on that extra layer of dark orange. See how much nicer? It's very subtle, but you can still see the dimension of these two leaves as opposed to this one. So here we go again. I'm going to get this one out. This one is cadmium orange. Doesn't really matter the colors. Your colors are going to be different because everybody's backgrounds are a little different. The point is that you're going to always take a little bit darker than the background that's given for your shading. 1 or 2 shades. This one I'm going to go back up with my cadmium yellow. Either side of that midrib. In the hood. And then blend with this lighter color. You can also blend with a colorless blender pencil or a solvent, which is what I generally prefer, but this blends out really well since we're just doing tone and tone. Might want to add a little bit of red. You could also shade the hypnotic to be a little bit more sculpted if you wanted to. I kind of don't feel like we need to, but this is what you would do for that. Just popping up those centers so they come to the foreground. Like something like that. And now we can do some finessing. We can do our fun little fescues. I like to have some coming kind of in like mocha. There is our project all finished. Don't forget to turn it this way and that. Decide which place you want to put your chop. I think I like this as the top, like it's rising up to the sun. And then I'm going to put my chop somewhere down here. And I'll sign and date the back. So if you'd like, you can also add some highlights on here with either General's white chalk or white colored pencil. That adds yet another bit of interest. Sometimes it's fun just to do a line down so it looks like it's just shimmering, right? So however you wish to finish this off, you can add little white specks here, maybe with your jelly roll, and just play around with some other finishing touches. It would be pretty to add some gold jelly roll as well. So that is Leafy Phicops. I hope you enjoy this project as much as I do. I just come back to it all the time. It's a great pattern for many things. This is another idea, is just to put a different pattern behind. I think, and Zeppa would look nice there as well. And here I just did basically this, and then I glazed over the top with the different colors. That is it for today, and I'll try to think of something else sort of organic for next time. I'm thinking of another leaf, have another leaf in mind. So thanks for joining me today, and I'll see you next time. That's it for today's Tangle. Thanks for joining me. If you like these lunchtime tutorials, please give them a thumbs up and subscribe to my YouTube channel. I also invite you to check out my website for classes that I have scheduled or to purchase my Tangle tags for your favorite step outs. That's botangle.net. I'm leaving you with some other links too. Zentangle.com, where you can learn more about the Zen-tangle method from its founders, Rick Roberts and Maria Thomas. You can also visit their store there for a multitude of Zen-tangle paper tiles, tools, books, and kits. Tanglepatterns.com is that site I talk about where you can explore hundreds of tangle patterns, read about them, and get the step out, which is basically the deconstruction of the pattern. And finally, if you'd like to share your beautiful results with me and my student community, please join Annie's Botangle Alumni Facebook page. We're a private group where we inspire each other with our work and offer tips and useful information about art and Zen-tangle.